Hello, alright, welcome to the second part of having a look at Forspoken. So as you know, there was some developer gameplay floating around. No one actually got to play the gameplay. It was just a pre-recording and then given to the press. So everyone's been having a look at it and I thought I'd throw my hat into the ring. I've already done a video outlining the spells and probably the more interesting stuff, loot and progression and how it works. But this video is more about just having a look at some of the more boring features, so kind of like gameplay and how questing works, or at least speculation on it, and just some kind of general thoughts really, because I don't want to boo-hoo the game, because watching someone else play a game makes it very difficult to get a feel of how everything works. But at the moment, I do have some concerns, and well, not even concerns, just some thoughts really on it, and we're going to discuss them. So the world is divided into 4 distinct chunks, and at the middle there's a big old city that kind of runs and rules and manages everything. And the area that we are looking at now, I don't know which chunk, but it is kind of like a deserty, grassy, worn down area. And if I was to take a guess, I'm presuming that this is like the starting zone that we fly around in. So it is an open world game. When you have a look at the map, it is pretty big, and there looks to be icons that, denote like treasure and maybe dungeons and like interesting side quests that you can go to, and, gives you that kind of longevity when playing the game. Exploration extras, I guess we can call them. And I think that's great, and they work well in The Witcher, and I think they're kind of a staple in open world games, because otherwise you just end up with, just a very open world with nothing really in it. But I guess I wasn't really going to cover this later, but that is immediately my first thought when watching this gameplay, is that there just doesn't seem to be really much to it. You look at big open world games like Spider-Man, for example, you've got that kind of the hustle and bustle of a city, it's a very active living environment. And this one just feels very empty and a little bit dull. And I think also with the combination, both the fact that everything is this sandy shade of brown as well, it just feels like the whole place has had the life sucked out of it. Now, maybe this is part of the whole setup and tale, and maybe that's what they want me to buy into, get the feeling that this is just a dead landscape. But in terms of like making me salivate and want to play, it doesn't really do much for me. And I mean, this must be an intentional choice, because the capes are like blood red and the spell icons are like, vibrant colour. But everything else is, it just feels a little bit lifeless. I thought that while the parkour looked like it can potentially be really fun and fluid and fast, the way that kind of enemies were just randomly littered across the roads, it just really didn't feel like it married up. And for the most part, even when you're playing the demo, they were just running by them, and it made you kind of wonder like, well, why are they even there then? Now, I did like the combat, but I gotta say, we've got all this wonderful parkour action, but when it came to actually fighting the enemies, it just felt like all they were doing was running around in circles really, really fast. Maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on the movement. Maybe I should accept the fact that it's all about big, bold spells or whatever. But I feel like they are putting such an emphasis on this magical parkour, and the fact that there are such good games out at the moment. We're almost spoiled for choice in terms of like parkour, rapid, fluid movement games like Spider-Man. You've got Dying Light 2 soon. That when you do a side-by-side comparison, it's a bit like, well, I almost expect this to be a little bit better. I feel like there will be more verticality, and there's definitely the option for it. Like, you see her spinning on giant poles and going up cliffs and down, etc. And maybe showcasing some of that would have sold the combat more to me. But I don't really know how I feel. It just didn't wow me. It didn't draw me in. It was just okay. And maybe that'll be the case. Maybe the combat will be okay and the story will be phenomenal, because they do have some amazing writers on this team, as well as having some fantastic actors. So that part of it should be pretty top tier. And this is all original story as well, and it's not like it's been plucked out of other things or a book, for example, or a movie, or at least to my knowledge. So, it will be a very, unique experience. I also just want to touch on the last thing as well, and this was just a minor one. the whole loot at the end of the fight as well, it was like this big mob of enemies, you burn them all down, you go through this effort and you pull out a healing potion. And it's things like that if it ends up just being a case of, oh, another healing potion or a mana potion, then you're just not going to bother with them. Anyway, this is only a very small chunk of the game and no one was playing it, so no one's really got an idea of how it's going to feel. And maybe when we get into the game, it will be a totally different experience and I will have been talking out of my proverbial. But until then, I will keep you all updated and give you any news that I find. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Let me know in the comments below. But until then, have a great week, have a wonderful day, and I'll be back with more news soon.